I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Frank Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Here?
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Kenny Reinhardt, Dean Reister,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
I make a motion to excuse Kenny from this meeting. He had trouble getting the flight back home, sounded like.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Steve Jordan.
Yes.
Approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
and Brian Smith. Disbursements. Any questions?
I make a motion to approve the financials as presented. I'll second that.
Is that Steve?
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
Or is it your left?
Oh, no, he isn't.
No.
I was gonna say,
I would not
Mr.
leave without
Holtzberry.
that.
It's your turn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good.
I don't have a podium.
Dismissed you though.
I'm
so-
sorry?
Amy dismissed you though, so.
The pressure's on, rough crowd, I tell you. I forgot my glasses, but I know this. I am currently county commissioner, your county commissioner. I'm running for re-election again to serve a third term. I feel that we've really had a lot of great progress since I've been in, and we are continuously doing other projects as we speak. I've got a mentor of mine that I've had for probably 15, 20 years, and I was talking to him, and he says, I think the public needs to know what boards you serve on, because there's where your strengths lie. It's just not showing up on Mondays and Wednesdays, and the reporter here can back me. Mondays and Wednesdays, there are a few hours and we're gone. Wow, that'd be quite a gig, wouldn't it? Most of my expertise and most of my assets that I bring to the table are after hours. And so that's what we're going to talk about for a few minutes here. The first board I serve on is Family and Children First Council. I chair that board. That board runs a program called Help Me Grow program, which nurtures children. They could have issues, speech impediment, motor skills, maybe cognitive, can't get they want to put the square peg in the round hole type of thing. So they work with these children, infant growing up about 4 or 5 years old. Then they go on to Head Start, which I'll explain that one later too. The Help Me Grow program is a reimbursement program through the state of Ohio, through Medicaid, Medicare. But there's still funding that has to be raised in order to support the 1.5 staff that go into home visitations. And as I got into that, Lisa Ricker was chairperson, and I just came on new as vice chair because people wanted me to do it. Tragically, she was killed, so then I kind of got, I wouldn't say railroaded, but I was asked to serve to that capacity. And I've had it ever since. We actually had changed the bylaw so they can keep me in as president because I'm very actively involved. With that in mind, I saw a shortfall and I thought, well, there's got to be better ways that we can raise funding. So I went through the United Way. Yes, they can help. Tri-County Mental Health. Yes, have a board member. There's another couple of small avenues we went to and got some extra funding, but I said, we got to have other help than this. 2020, stroke of luck. Wasn't genius on my end. Friend of mine, the governor's wife, came to our courthouse to scout ahead for the bicentennial when her husband came, remember? And friend of mine was promoting her cookbook and also doing the scouting out front type of thing for him. So I thought, why not? Why not ask? So I asked her for a moment, and I told her what my dilemma was for the Help Me Grow program. She just lit up and she grabbed me right in the arm, said, "I need to talk to you. That's my pet project." Oh, and I thought, oh yeah. I said, "What is it that you can do for us?" I said, "Paulding County lost a lot of money 12 years prior. We do state budget cuts and things, and we never got that money back. Even when times got good, we never got that back." So I said, "I'm not asking for a whole lot, but if we could just get back what we lost, I would be grateful." She said, "It won't happen on this budget cycle, but trust me when I say," and boy, her eyes are like, "I believe you." The next budget cycle, well, it's here. And I just got some pamphlets and paperwork on the budget through the County Commissioners Association. Every county is now going to receive more funding. I just received word that Paulding County is going to get $63,000 to $69,000 back. What a lift, a burden off of our shoulders, because now we can put them 1.5 people back out into the field and do more home visitations. The clients are there, we just didn't have the funding to do it, and now that one was resolved. So I'm happy to serve on that board for that aspect. Another board I serve on is the Senior Center Steering Committee. I'm vice chair on that one. There again, funding becomes a problem sometimes, and that is one that funding comes through private donations. Well, we've invested our money very well, and we had a pot of money come in from a gentleman who just swears up and down about the senior center. And so with that in mind, I made the suggestion of our vehicles were getting old, rusty, falling apart, breaking down. You're going like this all the time in the wintertime, that you don't have a breakdown in the middle of the road. And I said to the rest of the board, I said, "Here's what we need to do. We're going to do what the Sheriff's Department does every year or two. We trade vehicles out every 2 years. So he has a fresh fleet and he has a resale value." That makes sense, don't it? So we did it. We took a chance, got a nicer, newer vehicle, an SUV with a lid, so you could get them meals out of there and get them delivered to the seniors. And now we've got a complete fleet. Along with that in mind, I'm not afraid to go after funding when it's deserving. And when I feel that we need funding for the senior center, I'm reaching out to the area office of aging. Now keep that one in mind as I go on, because it all ties in. The next board I serve on is NOCAC, Northwest Ohio Community Action Commission. They service a lot of low-income housing, rent, utility shutoffs, seniors home improvement programs, which I'm all the time going after funding. I would say at least once a year. I back that up, sorry. I'll go after that funding once a year through the Area Office on Aging, and been very successful with that also. But there are programs out there that people in this county didn't realize was out there unless you go after the programs and go after the funding. Last year alone, our county was eligible for $672,000 for all these programs combined. And the main program that I'm involved with so much is the Head Start program. The Head Start program in this county services 17 school-aged children up to around kindergarten 4, 5, 6 years old. If we did not have the Head Start program in our county, these kids would be so far behind, and a lot of them are not ready for kindergarten, first grade, second grade. They would be left behind. And as a past educator of 11 years experience, I do not want to see a child left behind. I know I'm taking a cliche line from Bush, but I don't want to see any school-age children left behind. So that has been a very powerful program. And again, I've met with the regional director that came out of Chicago, and I was the only board member to appear because I just cleared my schedule to make this thing happen. And what do you think I asked of her? Is there any way that extra funding can come back around from Northwest Ohio Community Action Commission for Head Start? Oh, okay. Well, let me review. She went back and reviewed, and this has been like 4 years ago, but the funding has been there competitively with everyone else ever since. Now, even with the COVID and everything, that funding still kept coming in very steady. So I'm hopeful that that will stay around. The last board I serve on, and I mentioned earlier, Area Office on Aging. I serve on that board, and I can ask for money for NOCAC, and I can ask for money for our senior center. My boards are all webbed together, and I've been very successful at bringing money in for our county. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what I do when I'm not in session, constantly. I'm working on a grant for $1,800 now for our senior center because we now have more senior citizens with home meal deliveries than we've ever had. Paulding County has the highest percentage of senior citizens still living in their homes. Now, I'm not talking overall numbers versus Lucas County, but the percent is way higher than 10 county around us. See, she said, oh, I didn't know that. That is true. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, this is a fact. So with that, I'm always going after money for our transportation funds because she'll run out in August. Now that has to come out of your taxpayer dollars, levy dollars. Now, is it better off to go after federal dollars to keep it in your county or go back to you folks and ask for another levy and maybe a bump up with an additional? I don't think so. Nobody wants to do that. I don't mind helping people, but it's kind of like, man, I'm squeezed a little bit myself. What I'm asking of you, I need your support in the May primary. It's coming up. It'll be here quicker than you think. I need your help. Get me back in there, keep me in line, and keep me pushing to get these dollars back into our county and keep it here. We are now way under the poverty level that it was 10 years ago. And I base it on a lot of this because, well, yeah, me, okay, me, going after a lot of this money. And if I didn't do it, I'm afraid that somebody else won't do it if I don't get back in. That's what I'm afraid of. I don't mean to preach, but I get passionate sometimes. You're lucky I don't have a podium because I can really roll. But I want to thank you for your time and allowing me to speak to each and every one of you. And I will leave some really fine notepads and some really beautiful printed brochures that I know he's already, he did them for me, did a wonderful job. And I will leave them for you, and I want to thank you. And if any one of you have a question, I'm gladly try to answer that. If not, I'm easily available to find. Please call me and ask, and I will have a sit down or I will have a phone conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, we're doing the final reading on ordinance number 2022-01, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the village of Antwerp to enter into delinquent debt collection agreement between the Ohio Attorney General and the village of Antwerp. That is the third and final reading.
Make a motion that we accept it.
I'll second that motion.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
Is there more than just the front page she signed on that one? I'll give it to you when she's done. I know I have some in here with pink notes for you. The next one is an ordinance authorizing the village fiscal officer, this is ordinance number 2022-03. An ordinance authorizing the village fiscal officer to transfer $4,173 from the general fund to the severance pay reserve fund.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion to approve, I said.
Yes, motion to approve.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
The next one is ordinance number 2022-05. This is also a third and final reading. This is an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to enter into second addendum to the agreement for collection, transportation, and disposal of residential solid waste within the corporate limits of the village of Antwerp, Ohio.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
and Dean Reister.
Yes.
Pass that to Brian when you're done. He has a spot to sign. Ordinance number 2022-06, also a final reading. This is an ordinance authorizing the village fiscal officer to transfer $7,500 from the general fund into the street lighting fund.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yeah.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
You have to get a copy of this too to get to release this. Third reading of resolution number 2022-01. A resolution of necessity to levy a tax that is a renewal of an existing levy in excess of the 10 mil limitation for the purpose of providing and maintenance and maintaining fire protection and emergency medical services.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution.
I'll second.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Frank,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
So you put in who made
Yeah.
the motion,
The motion was Dean,
okay, and then who seconded?
I did.
seconded was Bryce.
Bryce, okay.
And then there's something on the back too. I have a pink sheet on the
I'll
back.
quit listening because you're gonna just do second readings.
Yep, I'm
all
doing
of
second
these.
readings now.
Well.
I'll just, I can't multitask that good, so
Put
I'm
your
gonna go ahead and
AirPods
finish.
This is ordinance number 2022-11. This is a second reading. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and the fiscal officer to enter into contract with Crane Township for providing emergency medical services in calendar years 23, 24, 25, and 26.
I'll make a motion to accept.
That one's just a second reading.
Okay, oh, that's right.
This is also a second reading.
You can accept the
Ordinance
second
number
reading.
2022-12. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the fiscal officer to enter into contract with Harrison Township for providing emergency medical services in calendar years 23, 24, 25, and 26. This is also a second reading, 2022-13. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and the fiscal officer to enter into contract with Carroll Township for providing emergency medical service in calendar years 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026. Also a second reading, ordinance number 2022-14. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to enter into contract with Harrison Township for providing fire protection services in calendar years 23, 24, 25, and 26. Now we have a new one that was added to your packet today. This is an emergency reading of resolution 2022-02. A resolution supporting the Railroad Street project and declaring the same an emergency.
This is just simply formality in order to seek grant funding through CDBG and the Paulding County Commissioners to try to get a percentage of the grant funding for the overall project that's estimated at $127,000.
Are we expending anything on this approval?
Are we what?
Financially expending anything?
Yes. Depending on the grant, if we receive $75,000, we'd have an obligation of $51,000.
Okay.
So the village will have an obligation.
And why is it an emergency? Just,
Because of the time frame in which I have to present and the time frame in which they have to.
okay.
It has to be completed and to them, I think by the end of this month. I gotta take a look and see.
Okay.
So that's why we do these.
So this is a reading to seek the funding.
Correct.
And once we locate the funding, then we'll go over the ins and outs of what it's gonna cost us to receive the funding
Right.
before we accept it.
Right, depending on what the Paulding County Commissioners have, $150,000 less admin fees to delegate to projects within the county. So depending on how many people present and receive up to 3 projects, we could get anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000. The balance of what is owed on the project would be our obligation.
I make a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
So this needs signed by each of you. This is an Attorney General collection agreement, so I'm just gonna pass it around.
Do we need to finish this one first?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry,
We
just
still need a
suspend the
motion
rules.
to
We have
accept.
I'm sorry.
It's
what's
okay.
that?
You can still start passing.
Yeah, you
it
can still
though.
pass it around.
Just to say though, you have to kind of double up. There's only 3 lines.
Right, it's in the middle.
Okay.
You do too.
Now,
I have the official one.
So somebody wants to make a motion to approve.
I'll make it. We can't multitask either.
I
We can only either
obviously can't.
sign or make a motion.
Okay, Jason Frank,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yeah.
just Steve Jordan,
Yes.
and Dean Reister.
Yes.
Like I said, you'll just have to double up on lines if you want to do right under his. They just,
Yeah.
yeah, they
So
don't.
I have
didn't
to
catch
keep
that.
Didn't
it.
have enough for all five.
Okay,
Whoever gets to sign last gets their own signature line.
Can I just take the last one?
We've got enough with the four of us.
oh, cause Kenny's not
He's
here,
not here.
he missed his flight, or his.
I guess
Oh,
flight
yeah,
was
we're
canceled.
five.
I'm sorry,
I was gonna
there's
say, when you
five
said
of
four,
us.
I'm like, wait a second.
Well, I didn't
thought we
count
were
myself.
five.
It's not even mine.
No, five.
Give it away anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Out of control.
The reader report for the month, in the month of March, we collected $22,880.51 for February. We currently have 78 users signed up for the new Iris Alert system.
You can even do that one.
Wanted to discuss with you real quick on that. We could see about doing a press release in the West Bend News in the Plotting Progress to try to reach people, or we could just do a mailing out to everybody in town that has a water bill, which would obviously cost us a little more. So I would like you guys to let me know how you would like to move forward with that.
Amy, could you change the wording on the water bill and add that onto the water bill?
No, there's not enough room. Unfortunately, the
Okay.
post office sends them back to us quite often and tells us we're over our space.
What if you print it on the other side with the address and just make a note that says, be sure to sign up for alerts and put it right on that address side, because as long as you're outside of that 3-inch by 1-inch window,
You can use it.
you
We
should be
could
fine.
probably do that if you think that that's enough for people to understand how to do it.
People who are going to look at it and want to sign up are going to do it.
Okay.
You can't force them.
We
But-
could try that way too, first, since
Yeah.
it's free.
I
Right.
mean, we're already paying for it to be
The
mailed.
other thing that April and I were talking about was,
Yeah.
even just mailing it with this card in an envelope. It would only cost us, I think, 12 more cents per, but we would obviously have the cost of paper and envelopes and everything, or, and envelopes, because we would put the bill. But we were concerned that people won't know their bills in there,
Right.
and then we might have a lot of issues with people not, oh, I didn't know you mailed my bill in an envelope this time, because you normally don't. So we're just trying to, but yeah, we can do that this time, and then we can always do a press release in April, or
Can see how it works.
Yeah, you're going to have to keep hitting it just because
I feel
people-
like the most signed up when we actually were in that cold, snowy fire. We had the fire and the water lane. That's when people were, and I've hit Facebook and the village's website several times with it. I'll continue to do that. If you guys can continue to share it, let your friends, family know. That's probably the best way.
Is that something we can do on the school? I think we talked about that, or that might have been something different, but is that something they could put on the school thing? Like where they shoot it out?
I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay.
sure if the school would do like a public village notice on it or not.
Okay. I mean, they seem to do a lot of things that are outside of they've done stuff for the splash pad and things like that, I guess.
You know,
so.
Amy, something else that, just to interrupt you,
Yeah,
because
go
I'm
for
good at
it.
it, is do a contest
I thought about
of
that.
signing up
So
and then
actually-
commenting on it, and then we give away like a sweatshirt or a shirt. Was there any extra Final Four shirts
No.
that we could buy?
No, there was a first one and done run.
Okay.
We
Just
actually
conference
even
months.
thought about, I don't remember if it was Brian's idea or Jan's idea, but we even said like $5 off your water bill if you go in and sign up. I'm not saying we're doing that, but that was just an idea we had, because we knew people would, okay, let's go sign up for this, because then it's less of a headache for them in the long run, knowing we're shutting water off. And I mean, it works really well. Do you guys all signed up and you got your alerts?
So yeah, maybe you could even put on there, enter for
$25
sign
gift
up
card.
for here and
We
get your
can get
water
them
bill
chamber
for free this
bucks.
month.
That's
Yeah.
what Brian
And
said,
just do a
chamber box.
contest.
Maybe it was you that said said it.
without having to buy anything, but yeah, maybe a contest of free water bill.
I just said, anytime you have free giveaways, people
It
will
does.
eat it up. It doesn't matter
does.
if it's a free pen or a free notebook or a
Right.
free whatever, it draws people in. So if you
Did the chamber
give the
bucks, that
25 chamber
helps.
bucks, not only does that keep it in the community and the businesses around here, but it promotes people to, and like that's the whole like, share, comment thing, tag, whatever.
And
you
it's
know.
super easy for me to track who's on, so even the 78 that's already signed up could still go into the drawing for that, you know? But yeah.
Mhm.
It's your guys' call. You tell me what you want me to do, you approve it, I mean, and I'll do it. And imagine, do we need a motion for me
I
to
would.
spend $25 on
I
chamber
would do a
bucks?
motion, that way you have something in your minutes.
Or, yeah. so
I'll make a motion to spend, to have a contest, and then you could put that on the postcard when you mail it out, for chamber bucks to be reused in the town. Worded to make it sound decent.
How much?
I would say $25, whatever Brian suggested. I think you said 25
I mean,
sounded
that
good.
seems like that's enough.
Sounds like a two
gas or
meals
a
at the
meal or-
Oasis.
yeah, that's right.
Big enough incentive.
Yeah. I
Are
mean,
we
I-
eligible?
Technically, you're paying.
Why?
Are we?
No,
No.
as elected officials, you are not.
I don't think so.
I am, but I don't live in the village, so therefore I'm not.
Put that in the minutes then, so everybody knows we're not, if any of us win, then it would have to be another drawing,
Okay.
or in the, motion.
No elected officials.
Not eligible.
I don't like this idea.
It's not as attractive as
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so I got a motion from Bryce. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
and Dean Reister.
Yes.
So the stuff at the back is what Ashley will need to complete, it's like the questionnaire
Okay.
and stuff.
Okay.
Everything else is signed.
She's on a run, so she wasn't gonna make it in. Okay, so that's it for me. I'm good.
Are you done?
I am.
Okay. Everybody has the EMS report in your, look that over real quick. She said Ashley's on a run, so she won't be here to answer questions.
If you have questions, feel free to call her anytime.
Hey, I'm sorry to stir the pot, what happens with people who've already signed up, do they get in?
I can still see them.
Okay.
So
they
I'll,
can get in
yeah,
and
I'm gonna put
I
everybody
just
in.
can see
So
people getting mad.
yeah, everybody who
signed
signs up, and I think we'll set a date to it too, so that you've got to
Or
sign
so
up by
it's for
this.
those that signed up and those two sign up.
We have the drawing at the next council meeting.
There you go.
Live.
Bye.
So do you have to, do we have a deadline then for that?
I don't know when the next bills go out. Is there
The next bills go out on April 1st,
Oh, okay.
which is Friday.
I think go like November or something. Plenty of time to sign.
Well, the whole point is to get them encouraged to
Quick.
sign up now.
Yeah.
We could do
So
another
we
one
can
in
get 'em out.
November.
So if we did like April 18th, that's 3 weeks. The longer they have their bills, the less likely they're gonna do it, because you need your account number to do it. So you see your bill, I'm gonna go do this. Just like the Final Four shirts, shut that store down in 3 days.
They get their bill this time. And
They
then
ordered
they're like,
600
well,
shirts.
I missed it. So then next time they don't sign up, so maybe the next time they'd be like, oh, I've got another opportunity to do this, maybe I should sign up. on
Maybe
it."
next time you guys offer a second
So
opportunity.
yeah,
Hey,
we can
we can see how it goes, and if we get
stipulations.
half the village signed up, then that tells us something, and if we get 4 people, then that tells us something too, so.
So
we
maybe
can-
leave it open-ended. I would think you'd wanna put on
I
there,
do
you
too.
have until so long,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
to
yeah.
sign up.
I think so.
Let's do the first round for the April 21st, and then we seriously can do a drawing at that meeting.
I think that sounds good.
18th, sorry, yeah, it's March 21st, April 18th. Does
It's a
that sound okay?
$25 like experiment, so I would think that's not too costly relative to.
And the next one you wouldn't wanna do until the next bill went out, which would be May, June,
July.
July.
September,
August,
October,
yeah.
November.
Say, I
This one's money given away in November. What it is.
So
Okay.
on this EMS run report, are we turning like all the ones from 2021 and earlier over to the state? Is that what we just approved? Or,
We just approved some of that.
Like,
You're gonna go back more than that. You're gonna go back a minimum of 5 years.
yeah, I mean, 2021 into 2016 or 2015.
Yes,
So those are pretty much gonna be turned over.
yes.
Okay. So
Should be. I mean, I'm not being.
She's got a
She's
thing
got a
she'll have
list.
to fill out that's attached where she'll have to send supporting documentation and everything over to them, but she has, and when I say she, Ashley, there is a detailed questionnaire to fill out
Okay.
on what she has to send over in her supporting
She'll
documentation.
probably pursue the larger ones.
Why are we writing stuff off due to date of service?
Because you're not getting paid, so instead of carrying it on your books.
Oh, these are just older ones.
That's what it should be.
I just wondered, because it's under the 2022 write-off, so I just wondered,
Some have passed away.
Maybe they passed away, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
she did tell me that. She's had some pass away that she can't go after,
right,
so,
okay, that makes, I just wondered, because due to date of service, that
Mhm.
we're only, I mean,
yeah.
into the year, so I
Yeah.
just kinda wondered why that
Did
was.
she
so-
track to see if an estate's open to file a claim?
I don't know.
Most of them, by the time you find out the state's closed, you're not able to get it, or there's
I
nothing
think
in the
it's a
estate.
6-month time period, they don't find out.
But those are, I mean, she welcomes
Question for-
anyone to
yeah,
call
no,
her
and I-
anytime. It don't have to be at a meeting. I mean, you can call her anytime.
I'll do that.
This is not
Okay.
something we need to approve, right? It's just for our information,
Which,
the report, like we do the
No,
financial
yeah.
report. we
it's
don't need
just
to-
for your
okay.
information.
I
If you have
thought so.
questions on it, we ask that you get a hold of Ashley.
Okay,
Because she generally won't attend our meetings. She attended last month and she was gonna attend tonight because of the Attorney General, in case you guys had any questions on it, but
Everybody has the police report. Get over. Okay, Brian.
Any questions on my report? The first thing I want to point out is the Holly Beach committee request. They asked to utilize the park on the 9th or the 23rd of April to do a fundraiser. It's a kids mud run. And I told them that I would check with council and see if there was any issues with that. If not, I'd notify them in either case. So,
How
So
are
it's
they,
just a
how are
measure
they
of risk.
creating this mud?
I don't know, I didn't ask.
I mean, they like plan on tilling up part of the park?
No.
So, as a person who was on the committee of the splash pad, I think they're using the mudder as a general term because I said my question would be liability. Like if a little kid jumps off a thing and breaks his arm, then what? So they were thinking more like a kid-friendly like challenges, but I don't think your typical mudder where you're like
Tough
where
mudder.
we'd be like where you'd come out looking like you've been rolling around in a mud puddle all day. I don't know the exact details because we were I think they were trying to get it approved before they went too deep into it, but I think that was the goal of it, was just to kind of get the kids into the park and do fun things for them, but it definitely wouldn't be like tactical jumps off the top of the slide or anything like that. So
So the only thing, you always have to keep in mind, I think the last time we talked about this was a couple of years ago. I think the Antwerp Conservation Club would use the park to do something. I can't remember
shooting the
exactly.
BB gun.
Yeah. So we talked about the same kind of issue. Does it affect our recreational user immunity? Because is it something they're using beyond the typical nature?
Who carries the liability insurance on this project?
Well, we don't have the liability insurance for the park.
Because
This is somebody else using the park for a fundraiser. So my concern is, I don't know if the recreational user immunity will really apply because we're not sponsoring it. It's somebody else coming in. So we'd obviously need to check with our insurer. But they should probably have participants sign some kind of waiver and include the Village of Antwerp within that type of waiver. So it's just, it's just measuring your risk to allow somebody to use the park for an activity that could result in, any type of injury. That could happen with any type of thing that we do at the park.
when we have Day in the Park, the Antwerp Chamber has to buy insurance, and that's a fundraiser. I know we have separate insurance just for that day.
That makes a
and we
lot of
did this.
sense.
We did discuss the waiver.
And is the
thing.
village included as an additional insured then on that? Is that how that works, Bryce?
I don't know, there was like 28 pages. So,
So I would think since the village owns the park,
I
It
think
probably
so.
includes the village as an additional insurance, so then we would be, because of course, if anything happens, they're gonna look to the, who
Whomever
owns
has
it.
most money.
When they're gonna look to the village, because the village owns that park, so just, it's, again, measuring risk, making sure that there's protection in place that covers us with insurance.
This was put on by ACDC.
This is actually done by the Holly Beach Splash Committee,
Foundation.
so it's separate from the ACDC. They're
And
all
you're
kind
not
of
a
working.
separate 501c3 or anything,
No.
just the ACDC is, so
Just
that's,
the-
again, you're just kind of an ad hoc
Yeah.
committee.
So, yeah, and we did, like I said, mention the waiver thing, and we could write that up and have you look over it
We
and approve
still
it. or,
probably
you
need
know.
to have something like Bryce said, that insurance, cause if I would do whatever we've done in the park for other fundraisers, it should be treated the same way.
Yeah, absolutely, and we don't. We're not. I know they didn't want to have anything fall on the village. It's just a kind of a central place where, and they wanted to kind of do it around the splash pad, the potential splash pad location. If that makes sense. So potential, yes.
As long as
So,
whatever we gotta do to protect the village.
Yeah, and that's absolutely, and that's what I said when, I brought that up when we were in the splash pad meeting, that there would have to be a measure of,
Liability.
yeah,
Protection,
so
yeah.
protection, yeah.
Do you have any idea what that policy costs? You guys do it for the fundraiser?
I think we pay $1,200 a year, and that day is included for, I believe is what that is. You might check with ACDC, they might have an insurance policy that you would fall under.
Okay.
You might also check with the Antwerp Chamber to see if theirs covers more than just that day, but I do know that it does spell that out. That would be a Sue Fowler question.
Brian, is this something that's gonna require a lot of cleanup?
So, to tell you, honestly, they didn't go in depth in the planning because we wanted to kind of see if it was something that we could get approval. I don't know, the April 9th seems not reasonable
That's
to
what I
me.
was thinking.
Like the 23rd would,
Cold.
like to be able to give people time to plan for it and do things, and set it up. I guess when we talked about it, like the vision is kind of like, if you had hula hoop rings and things for them to jump and different, like that kind of thing. I don't think it's going to be anything that's super crazy. I would assume that the splash pad committee would volunteer to clean it up afterwards, like as far as, trash pickup, this, that, the other little things, and kind of leave it as we found it, less the hundreds of little pitter patters running around. But yeah, there's not there wasn't a definitive plan or hey, we're gonna have these 7 stations, because it was just one of those things that we were trying to come up with ways to raise money, get people involved, some for the kids type of thing. So yeah, there's not we didn't set up this is the way it is. So, but I think we're kind of trying to see what the feedback was before they went too far into it. Because if you plan something and then it doesn't go through, then you kind of wasted. You understand that? So
Yeah, I would think to take back to them the 2 things, the insurance and make sure we're not left with a mess out at the park, because that park is
I'm
pristine.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with people using the park.
That's what we have it for.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a good idea. If we know more. April 9th seems like it would be so cold with mud.
yeah, well, and I don't know. I'm not sure who suggested the dates because I know we just discussed doing it, but so maybe they kind of came up with a couple dates just to throw out.
Just in case we wanted something.
Yeah, but I would say the 23rd would be the earliest, and if we needed to push it back a little farther than that, we probably could too. So.
Another thought on my end for the financial side is the restrooms. We always have issues with our restrooms, our toilets, since there's just one, it don't flush fast enough.
Okay.
So we've asked people when they're doing an event out there that they get porta pots.
Okay.
So a lot of our Black Swamp equipment, a lot of them donate them free, but it would be better for the village if you guys could get porta pots for that day. They can still use the restroom, but
Right, just
it's
additional.
too much.
Well, yeah, if there's all those kids out there, you're gonna need more than one anyway. So
Right.
we could, I could suggest that to them too.
So it might be good to come back on the April 18th meeting, and probably we'll have some more definitive details, because it sounds like those 2 dates were thrown out, but that might be hard to.
Yeah, well, and again, it's not anything that was set in stone, so, and like I said, when we were talking, when I was at the meeting, I don't remember them saying like certain dates. So maybe those were just two that they kind of threw out because it worked for those people. But yeah, we could always push it back, and we could do it in May. Part of it too, they try to, I think, spread out the fundraisers so they're not like.
23rd is Spring Festival for Antwerp.
I was gonna say,
That's
do we
not
have
gonna work.
do we
We
have a
have
calendar that shows when the park is reserved?
We do, and that was my next suggestion, is before they ever book a date, they need to call April Litzenberg and see if the park is
And the
available.
school
April is
has
the
a
one.
big event on the 23rd. It's the Spring Festival, so it lasts like all day into the evening. It's all the choir, band, all of them
Art.
perform.
That's on April 23rd.
Yeah,
Okay,
so that
so that's
might,
a
you
good day
might
not
want
to
to
do it.
avoid.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
it something they could combine that together since people were already there?
But the
That's
kids
not
will
at-
be performing.
That's at the
Yeah,
school.
This is school.
Oh,
That's at the
Yeah, and
school.
it's all the various grades are gonna be performing that day, so they probably aren't gonna wanna
they're
come
not
and do
okay.
that.
They're not at
They're
the
gonna
park.
school
I
event.
gotcha.
Yeah, like I said, I think they'd be fine with pushing it back. It was just kind of, I think they tried to stutter, and so again, we're not like, hey, fundraiser today, fundraiser tomorrow, you do the fundraiser. So, but yeah, I don't. There wasn't like a definitive date, so we could push it into May, and it makes sense too. On April 9th, I would think it could snow in April, so like then it's really a
That
mutter.
is the 23rd.
So, okay, so I'll check with April about the park schedule, try to follow up with ACDC or Chamber on the liability part of it, and then I'll make sure that I'm sure the committee will have no problem as far as the cleanup, and then we can check on the porta potties too, so. And obviously, if there's anything else, then just let me know and I can relay that to them. And obviously Brian talks to Maria and Dustin, and so we can all kind of reinforce that.
Okay. Along this note, we need to decide, and we've had many conversations, of whether or not we, you as a body, not we, I apologize, will permit the splash pad to be placed in the park. They have provided us with their site survey and their soil boring sample information, and have provided the council, and we need to just figure out what we're doing, because they're seeking direction. And,
So I actually talked to an attorney in Archbold, because they're doing a splash pad as well. They're doing a lot of the fundraising themselves. It's obviously a bigger municipality. They have a parks department that's doing the fundraiser, but I talked to their town attorney just to try to figure out issues. As I know Brian has pointed out, is this something we let them proceed? They do the contract and then they donate it to the village once it's done. Do we step in, since we own the park and it's gonna be a large public improvement? Should we be the ones really in charge of the contracting and monitoring the project and making sure everything's done correctly? So there's, pros and cons on both of those. The biggest pro that, when we were kind of brainstorming this issue, me and the attorney for Archbold, is the biggest thing is back to kind of what I was talking about on the fundraiser, is making sure we keep in place that recreational user immunity. If the village is the one that's, as the owner of the park, they're the one letting this out to bid, they're the ones entering into the contract as the public owner, then we retain that recreational user immunity. When it's in there and it's installed and people are using it, if anything is wrong with it, there's some defect with it, we're gonna be protected. Obviously, we can look at insurance on that, to make sure, but obviously recreational user immunity is a huge immunity to a political subdivision. The con, obviously, and then the pro, to look at it the other way, is if we allow the ACDC, who I assume would be the party then that would move forward to do the project and contract, they don't have to bid it. They can just move.
they would have to bid it,
Okay.
because they'd have to bid it because they're seeking
If we
state
might as
funds.
well do it. Because
Well,
the pro
but there's-
is to keep.
But the negative is that if they're seeking state funds, if they receive state funds, I'm not certain the village can bid it, because they're not the subrecipients of the funding. So they could lose that funding from the state.
The other thing is too, Brian, and I, like this last meeting, they talked about not having state funding at all, because it's such a rodeo right now, because all those people are changing, I guess they're maneuvering things, and so everybody's everything's on
Well,
hold.
people are running for different offices.
Yeah, so we talked about just doing it all ourselves. Just,
I mean, if you can do that, it makes life a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I didn't want to get involved in the bidding process.
yeah, and that's, I think
I
because
agree.
they have a lot of people that are donating to, like been Cowser, and you know, I mean, I think they've talked to Dean about different things. There's different places, different people, like the place that Dustin works for, I think they're gonna do the landscape. Like, there's a lot of things that they're putting in place where people are willing to donate and push it forward and help us. And so that's what we all kind of discussed is, do we sit around and wait for something that may never come? Or do we just push forward because the way this community has supported it, we definitely could make the money ourselves. We don't need that state funding. Obviously, it's always nice to have free money,
Right.
but yeah, I think with all the paperwork that comes with it and all the biddings and all those things that's what they discussed last meeting, was just doing it like as our committee and the ACDC and obviously the people that have all supported it and are on board with it. So that may change that aspect of it. So,
Well, even if the village took on the role, the village would have an obligation to bid the purchase of the equipment, because that's not gonna be given to you. I mean, you're gonna buy that from the manufacturer.
okay.
So that has to be bid, but that's almost the sole source, because you're gonna bid it based on the manufacturer's name. And I don't think they're out in the market and distribution, because it's $197,000.
We'd also have to create new funds that don't exist, and get permission from the state to create that fund. Then they would have to turn all their financials over to me, and then I would have to pay, which I'm okay with that. I just don't know that they want their hands tied that way. So.
Yeah, and I can't speak for the entire committee for certain. I mean,
I would say
you know,
this, Michelle Dooley played a huge role in the playground equipment at the park, and they were a separate committee, Friends of the Park.
Yeah.
She probably could give them a lot of advice on whether to connect with the village on having the village take that over, or in the same with the Friends of the Library.
It's nice because the Friends of the Park, it was a big project and in the park, so there's a lot of similarities between the two
The
projects.
park, yeah.
And they did mention that in that last meeting. They were talking about that committee, because I think some of the people on our committee, their parents were on.
Yeah, Julie
the park.
Taylor and
Right.
Michelle Dooley were big ones,
Okay.
for sure. And then I know what they did at the end is whatever money was left, they said, here, put this in the fund, and then this is for maintenance or mulch
I
or,
think, they replaced the mulch.
yeah, until it was gone, and then the village took it over after that, so
Okay.
just another thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I'll relay it along. Like I said, I'm just a branch on the tree. So I'm happy to pass the information along, and if they have questions, I can have them call you too. I mean, I know, like I said, I know Maria and Dustin talked to.
Sounds like we're still gathering information.
I don't think we have anything to move on.
Okay. On whether they can use the park?
We just
Well, I
don't
think
even
generally
know.
council's been fair like
I
that.
think we've
Work it
already,
out.
we've already given permission to use
Right.
the park,
Okay.
but what our last discussion was they was gonna generate the funds to cover it and then make like a donation to the village to build it. But what,
That sounds different today.
And maybe I can see if Dustin will come in and talk, or Maria, or Dustin. You know, he kind of had the whole presentation at our last meeting, so I could see if I'm sure he'd be happy to come in here and talk to us again and kind
I
of break it
recommend
down.
you guys talk to that Friends of the Park,
Okay.
because that was a significant project. And that was how many years ago? 10? No more than that.
Yeah.
15, 18 years.
Yeah, maybe more.
Because
like
it
15.
would, I would say, yeah, probably 18 years, because it was just finishing up when we moved here.
Yeah. it's
You
been
was
a long
like
time.
4.
I think when we was talking,
You were like 4 when you were.
when we was talking to
I
Dustin,
think, I don't have my
when
kid,
he
I don't
came
think I have my
in,
kids yet, that's why when you said 18, I'm like. yeah,
we
that's
weren't
probably
ready to
right.
move
Yeah.
forward with the construction because the funds wasn't there. So we kind of left them saying, yeah, we're in agreement that we would like to let you use the park to put this. But I believe when we left it, it was like, well, you get your money where you got it covered and then come back to us. It's
Yeah.
kind of where we was at.
When
Well-
I think the survey and the
That was 2
soil
things.
sample.
Yeah. And
Which that was all non-invasive. We just let them do it.
I'd like to sit down with Dustin Maria. I'll have a better understanding when I know what their funding mechanism is. If they're not going to take money from the state, there's just a lot of variables and stuff, but I mean,
When you're dealing with government property, it's just not easy.
you know, sometimes it's not even fun. So, we'll figure it out.
But we'll work through it, We definitely want them to know that they've got our support.
While
whatever
we're
it
on this
takes.
topic, who is on the Parks Board? because the only reason I ask is Mark Greenwood thought he was on the park board.
Mark's term expired at the end of 2021.
It's Nancy Leasty, Keith West, Michelle Dooley, and Maria Covey is what I have on my.
That's what I had on mine. We don't have any council members on there.
You don't have
You don't
to.
have to.
Oh, I thought we needed to. Okay, because I do think Mark Greenwood would be an excellent person, because he is so involved with the park.
The mayor does the appointments.
He was on it and his time expired and he never expressed interest, and Maria did, so.
Because he says, I don't know what's going on. He says, nobody's communicated with me. He says, I thought we should have had a meeting by now. And I said, well, I'll check at the meeting tonight. But yeah, because he's so involved down there.
Even if the whole thing
So-
didn't work out, the parking.
I thought he would come forward.
He said he didn't know
and
when his
expressed
term
interest in
expired.
it, but he didn't,
Conjurers
so.
have been doing a lot of,
Okay.
a lot of stuff. And
Let's see, we received an updated, agreement, I guess, for lack of better words, from our public, entities pool of Ohio. They made some changes to our coverage. The board voted to do it automatically at no cost to us. So it upped some additional things like cybersecurity and things like that we currently have under our policy, but they raised the limit. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. Requires no action whatsoever, it's already done. They sent it to us in the mail. I spoke with Rural Waste about our extension of our agreement. There is no increase at this time, but we probably should anticipate one in the near future. With the gas prices, I think their original bid was based at about $2.50 a gallon. You know, we're at $4.10, $4.20. So they said they're doing the best they can, but they said that, you know, if things didn't change, it probably would be forthcoming. So I said, okay. And we purchased a dump truck today for $39,350. It's 2015. It's a Ford F-350. And it was really nice. It's got 73,000 miles on it, but comes with a complete dump bed, and it's all set up to use a snow plow. And
73,000 miles, how much?
$39,350.
we all get to take that out for a spin.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we'll use the dump truck to carry your bag of cash with it. We don't have.
Right.
So I wanted to make you aware of that. Bryce, thank you for alerting me to the fact that they actually had one. I spoke to the dealer and they were to let me know, and they didn't, but Bryce sent me a message and so I followed up. Which is timely because the old Red's on its last legs, and Dean and I were talking the other day and I found out that vehicle is a 1980 dump truck.
And what are we doing with that?
Well, it depends on whether it's running or not. It doesn't have heat. The wipers don't work. We're not doing anything that requires us to leave the village limits.
Can we trade it in?
I was just saying, are we
No,
selling
they don't want
it?
No, we're gonna keep using it. There's
Okay.
times where
You can
we
use the
haul
second
stuff, we
one?
don't wanna damage
Yeah.
the new one, so we'll use old red. So, I had to put a starter in it today. It was stuck on a hill, loaded. So, it's,
When are we gonna acquire, have you acquired the new one?
no, I just need to take a check down, so we'll work on it this week. I should, this week, it's ready to go. It's just a matter of just taking a check down. They'll do all the document works and title and all that stuff.
I guess the minimum insurance coverage to keep the old one.
Yeah, I can check and see. I assume we have insurance on it. I can't believe that we have much, hopefully it's simply maybe liability or something.
I just hate to see us keep putting more and more money into it. It seems like it's constantly,
Well, I think that
I
it'll
get
be a
you had
standing
to-
rule that the next time it dies, we allow it to
okay, cool.
just,
I appreciate
And we'll
that.
put it in,
We'll get it.
we'll bid it out and let somebody buy it.
yep, somebody buy it for scrap or
Life
something.
support.
What else?
Use that internet auction.
We could use the internet. The only problem
Have
is,
to.
it's,
Yeah.
well, the only problem is it's not street, in theory, it's not street legal once it leaves the village. Cause it doesn't have heat, the wipers don't work, you know,
Is that a
so,
requirement for street legal?
not in the village. Outside the village it is.
Not our problem, it's theirs who's driving away.
Yeah.
So
As is.
where is?
Right, that's right.
No warranty.
Where it is.
So it could be towed.
Absolutely, it could be trailered.
Yeah.
That, I believe, concludes, I'm going to request a meeting with the Finance Committee But I think that'll dovetail in with Mr. Jordan's request this evening as well on his committee report. And then Gabe is going to want to update us quickly on zoning.
Right.
Done. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay. Gabe's gonna speak in place of Kenny tonight.
Okay, this is something we've been working on for quite a while. The downtown business district, the zoning commission has identified 52 properties they'd like to change from B1 primarily to B2. The manor house was a crazy B1 and R2. This will fix all of like B1 is not, does not permit residential. You guys had changed that, so it is permitted in B2, so this will make all those residences that are in the B1 district, now they'll be B2. They can do additions or replace their house in case of an emergency. There were 2 properties that they decided to move to to R1, which was right behind the H&W and the bank. There's 2 that we couldn't connect those to a B2 district, and since they'd have been non-conformities in B1, the decision was made to make those R1, which is the residential district that's adjacent to them. And then there was there's 1 property being added to B1, or being proposed to be changed to B1. That's the old Bears Den laundromat, car wash that's there by the bank.
Mary Liner's place.
Mary Liner's, and that one, there's so the idea was B1 was supposed to be on the main drag, and so that's the only one that was going to be changed to B1. The other 2 B1s in the whole village are out at Grant's Catering and Ole's self-storage out in the industrial park. And
So Grant's Catering is in the village, right?
it is, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so those are adjacent to the industrial zone. Industrial, one of the first things in industrial, it allows anything in B1. So they just wanted to clean it up, get B1 just the downtown. That's just the downtown business district. That would make it easier for the commission and council to manage that zone as the downtown business district. So that was the other.
And that ends at the bank?
Ends at the, we passed that around. Yes, so I didn't highlight B1, but it was basically Washington Street is where B1 ends. And so we added 1 to B1, which is this yellow one here.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest was all changed from B1 to B2, with the exception of the manor house was B1 and R2, and there actually is 1 parking lot spot that was zoned R2 that belongs to the manor house, that we put that into B2 so that all their property will be B2. They won't come up with something they want to do down the road that they have 1 parcel that's not. They're also here by the IGA, that whole corner, it was mixed up between residential and B1. And so then the decision was to make that all B2. And I know that I talked to the guys that bought Morrow's, yeah. They're planning on restoring and using the Bazali house as residential. That's good to go. So it'll make that corner B2. It'll also be contiguous with all the B2 going out with all the other residential. And so there's been a lot of thought and discussion, and Bill's here from the commission. I'm sure he could answer any of your questions. It's 52 parcels, and we got those all listed, and those will be going out. There are a few changes to the actual book, the code. One was the removal of treatment plants and government facilities of a similar nature as a permitted use in the downtown district. And I thought, well, why couldn't we make it conditional? They just didn't want a treatment plant. You guys could debate that. And
Governmental usage, you said also would not be permitted?
treatment plants and governmental facilities of a similar
Oh,
nature
the similar nature.
to treatment plant, which I'm not sure what that would be. But the other thing, we just had the Pop and Brew changed hands. It's now Phil's One Stop. Is actually there was a debate on how to fix that, because in B1 they're currently B1, they're not permitted to have the drive-through, right? So the debate was on whether to make them B2, which allows the drive-throughs, or keep them B1 and add the drive-through as a conditional use. And so they decided to make the drive-through as the conditional use in B1. And I think either way, they wanted Main Street to be B1. Was kind of the gist of it, when you kind of how it came down. And then in reading through some code on the table, it was pointed out that dairy farming and livestock farming and windmills were permitted in the village agricultural district, and the recommendation is to remove dairy farming, livestock farming, and windmills as permitted or accessory. The windmills are an accessory use, so it'd only be permitted as accessory to a farm, but to not permit those in the village, right? You could still do crop farming, roadside stands, and then there's so whatever that, but those would be not permitted in the village.
So is that proposing no windmills in the village whatsoever, residential or business?
So they were only, anywhere that I can see, permitted in the agricultural district for windmills, and only as an accessory to an agricultural operation. So, I mean,
So
I
as
think
it stands right now, we couldn't put up a windmill like at my house, just a small one on the roof or something like that. Is that kind of where we're at? Is that what we're saying? Or no?
so. That that's a good one. I don't know. What about a solar panel?
Mhm.
Maybe we should discuss that.
Don't mess with solar.
And solar's the future.
So I think the thought was more like these big,
Commercial.
Big
that's
turbine
right.
type
Yeah,
windmill.
I don't know that if it was accessory to. Can I check on that and get
Sure,
back to you? Dean?
absolutely.
I've never had anybody ask, honestly, for a residential windmill. As long as it didn't exceed the height requirement, I might be inclined to say, I don't know what's wrong with it, but because it's not specifically prohibited, right? There are very few things that are specifically prohibited.
On the residential side, somewhere
Or
else, what
anywhere.
you're talking about would be more of a turbine for a farming operation.
Correct. And I think the thought was back in the mid-70s when this was originally written, the old windmill that pumps water for the cattle,
Yeah.
and, but, so anyhow, then Brian and I worked out the timeline on all this as far as, the commission voted to send the recommendation over on March 9th. Today's the 21st, so you've received it. There's has to be a public hearing within 40 days, and it has to be in the paper for 30 days. And
30 days prior to the meeting.
30 days prior to the meeting. So that's a little 10-day window, and Brian and I gamed it out, and we talked to the Paulding Progress, and if we can get this to them ASAP, then we could have the announcement for the hearing published in the paper to have but you guys set the meeting date. So you would need to, the commission is recommending April 27th at 5:30 here in council chambers to have the public hearing. So, but the council schedules that hearing, not the commission. And so that's when commission would like to have that meeting on April 27th at 5:30 in this room.
I would accept your recommendation.
Okay, well,
You guys do a motion now? Then-
Motion to accept the recommendation for the hearing.
Just set a public hearing.
I'll second that.
That's on a Wednesday?
Time of the public hearing.
yes, we've been meeting on Wednesdays at 5:30. And then after the meeting, or after the hearing, then we would have our regularly scheduled meeting.
So April 27th at 5:30 PM, right?
Correct.
Okay. And that's a
Wednesday.
zoning meeting?
That is the public
public
hearing,
hearing.
Zoning
public hearing on the changes to B1.
It's actually the Village of Antwerp's public hearing to
Right.
rezone the parcels that he mentioned, as well as to amend the zoning ordinance that he mentioned.
However, if for some reason the progress cannot get it in this Wednesday, we've got to back that up a week. It
So
will still fall
listen,
in
you
the
got,
Should we just back it up a week?
so,
This is kind of complicated because of
Yeah.
required timelines.
right.
You don't have a lot of choices. So
Okay.
if you miss Wednesday's publication, then you're gonna have to look at moving
The
it out.
30th?
Because he's gonna have to come back to council and do this all over again.
And just
30
make sure
days.
that public hearing notice includes all 50.
If that happened, we could only do it on the 29th.
It's got the time, date, and everything.
And a summary on the zoning ordinance amendments.
I gotta look and see if he's.
Because you guys would lose 7 days, we couldn't do it on a Saturday or Sunday. I think we could do it on the 29th. If it doesn't get, that would say it doesn't go in this week. That's why we had to have it on a Friday last time.
Uh-huh.
Because we
Well,
couldn't
we're
get it in until the
confident.
following
We're
week.
confident it's gonna be in Wednesday's paper.
Here's what I'll say. I mean, I've been trying to stay impartial and everything, but here's what I'll say. If it is in our desk by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, because noon's our print deadline.
It'll be on your
I will
desk
make
before you get
okay.
home tonight.
Okay, all right.
Speak for yourself.
I
You
can
haven't
email
checked
it.
it yet.
So,
I'm going to before I leave.
Well, make sure to call Adam at 8 AM in the morning and make sure it didn't go to a spam folder.
okay.
We're gonna set up, we got 2 email addresses we sent to.
So if that happened, we could, yeah.
Do you have, what did you want? You wanted a brief summary of the zoning changes?
Just like how we did our last notice, if you remember the rezoning, we did that chart. So
I
just do
can print
that.
you my draft.
But
and-
then, I don't have time tonight, I'm sorry. With Kate leaving at 4:40 in the morning, I'm going home and spending the rest of my evening with her. But you have to do a summary of your zoning ordinance amendments too, just like we did before. We had
Yeah.
like that little summary of them.
And
So you can just follow kind of what we did before and just put in the.
I basically have it done.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was my only
and
recommendations.
All right, well, we'll go over it tonight before we leave.
Okay, motion to accept the recommendation of public hearing held on April 27th, 2022 at 5:30 PM. Who made that?
I did.
Dean?
Who second? Dean Reister?
Yes.
Steve Jordan?
Yes.
Bryce Steiner?
Yes.
Jason Franks?
Yes.
Kimmy's not here, and Brian Smith.
yes.
Got it.
Okay. We have any new business to discuss?
I think we're still on the committee report. Is there?
I have
got
a
a
committee
committee
report.
report? Okay.
Yeah, okay, February 24th, the Public Safety Committee met in an executive session. We didn't have the information that we wanted to have, so we turned it over to the Finance Committee to set up a meeting to review the proposal.
Who is the chair of the finance committee?
I am.
I'd like to be on that schedule as well for arts funding discussion. So if we could piggyback on something, mine won't take very long. please.
I'm gonna try to schedule it. Either way.
It's, Brian and Steve, we're the financial
I
committee.
have it.
Are you looking for
Well, we
finance?
wanna have it.
Dean and Brian and
We're gonna have to
Steve.
wait till we get information. So we're gonna be meeting with you during this too,
I have it already.
okay?
Look at you.
So we just have to set something. For me, anytime after 4:30 during the week works fine, so.
I just have to be after 5. 'cause I
After
work till
5 for you?
Yeah, so
So
like
five, sometimes
5:15, basically.
5:30,
Yeah, 5:30 would be perfect.
5:30, whatever day. We need to have at least 24, so you wanna meet like next Monday?
Oh, it's my son's first baseball game.
Okay, what works for you?
Um,
What works for you? We
I'm
say
just
we're-
trying to catch up here.
So we're getting in the 29th would be a Tuesday.
Tuesday works for me.
I think it might work for me too.
I can do it 29. Okay, so you do posting on the page.
And it's the ARPA.
Arts Financial, and
And
we're
then-
going in the executive on that other one,
Mhm.
which would be the same as what we did with the public safety.
Yeah,
I don't
for
remember what
purposes
that,
of security.
purposes of security, whatever that ordinance was.
And that's at 5:30?
5:30 on the
29.
So I really don't need to be there. You just need the information before, or you want me there?
I would like to have you.
Okay.
If I gotta go, you gotta go. Do you wanna hold it at the depot or here?
It doesn't matter to me.
It makes a difference to me, I just wanna put it in my calendar.
Probably best here. If I don't have something, I can easily grab it from my computer.
Okay.
So you're gonna put this on the
I will.
website.
I will do my job.
Two
Dave.
topics,
Yes. Executive session, purpose of security and ARPA funds.
okay. And it'll be the same as the last one.
I
for the
will. I'll
public
pull it.
safety, whatever
I'll pull it
was. George, I
exactly.
think, found it.
No,
Brian did.
Brian found it. I'll give George credit though.
that's okay.
Any other committee reports? Any new business?
Jan, I think we need to discuss the whole permits and food trucks, because that's gonna become an issue soon if we don't deal with it. Specifically, I don't think it was dealt with last year. It was kind of just pushed off. And I think we need to make sure that if we bring food trucks in, that they don't have an unfair advantage against the restaurants that are brick and mortar and paying the income taxes. What is our rules now as far as withholding taxes for, just to make sure it's a level playing field?
None.
See, I think we need to introduce that into this process, because I don't like this where it harms our local businesses and our local restaurants, because they're withholding taxes, they're paying taxes, and we have food trucks coming in who aren't doing any of that. And I think this needs to change.
Last year, we approached this as council under two different committees to try to see what we should do as the village council. And through hours and hours of deliberating over what would be fair and what would be proper, we came to the notion that it's not our duty nor our responsibility to regulate business. So that's why we looked at it as a public safety measure to just keep them from parking on the streets. So we decided that at the last council decided that we didn't want to get our hands involved with regulating businesses. We looked at doing licensings and permits and background checks. There was a lot that we discussed, and it just kept getting broader and broader, and it got to a point where we overreaching legality of allowing this to happen. So we had dropped it and just covered it as a don't park on the street. So that was our input from where we was at last year. We spent hours discussing it. So
Isn't there only
I just
one
wanted to throw that out
comes?
there.
Isn't it just the taco truck that's the only one that comes? Or does Grants, I mean, because Grants technically falls into our,
Right, see, and that's the issue we have is Grants brings a truck in, they have to pay the taxes, they have to pay the 1% and they have to withhold. The taco truck comes in, they have an unfair advantage. They don't have to do any of that. And I propose that we, if you're going to bring in a food truck, then they need to be following the exact same rules as every other business in town, or we make the other businesses in town not have to do a 1% tax. So that way, we make this fair for everybody.
Well, the taco truck uses private property.
All of these are private property.
Well, I mean, yeah. but
My
I'm talking about from a-
business is private property.
Right, but
the
from a
Oasis
food
is
truck,
private-
from a food truck perspective, they're utilizing private property.
Yeah, that, agreed. But, yeah, I think we need to make sure that there is no unfair advantage, because right now, the businesses are paying property taxes. They're paying 25% of all the taxes paid are going to the village of Antwerp. The guy in the taco truck, or any other one that doesn't have a business here in town, isn't paying that. So we've got to do something that makes sure, because I completely understand why the other restaurants were upset. And if we don't do something, I think it just makes us look bad. We've got to be the ones that take this and be in charge of this. Is it more regulation? I would say get rid of all the regulation. But if we're going to have regulation on the brick and mortar, we need to do it on the same for them. And that would be my proposal, is that if you're going to do business in the village, you need to, as a food truck, you're going to be under the same rules.
I know Brian don't know this because he's newer and he's just kind of getting his feet wet with Rita. I don't know if you do or not.
It's a long ordinance,
And
and it
it
would have to be
is.
something to look at our income tax
That's
ordinance.
correct. I
but
mean, like our
you should probably
construction.
call Rita. I mean, they're the ones that really,
I mean, we have people that come in and build homes, and they're
Right.
here 3 months. They don't pay taxes. There's
Well-
a certain amount of days you have to work
10
in the
days.
village in order to be
10 days.
taxed.
Now, it's interesting because I had an employee, her husband worked for one of the cable companies, and he would have 15 different W-2s because they had to withhold from every village that he worked in throughout that time period. And if not, I would say let's amend that ordinance just to make it equal.
Dean, do you remember how many businesses actually came forward to express their concerns about it?
Personally, myself, I know of one,
Yeah,
and then I know of two others that said it don't really affect them too much.
yeah.
I know two, and they both are no longer owning their businesses. One sold. Well, they both sold.
Tom?
I remember when we had the meeting and the room was packed in here. You had Bragg's, you had Ole McMichael, you had quite a few of them.
I was at a chamber meeting when we talked about it last week. I said, well, I guess if I owned a restaurant, I would run a taco special or a Mexican special every time that truck pulled into the parking lot.
And like I said,
But,
when we
but that's not the
deliberated
point.
through
The point is
committees,
being equal.
we decided it was just too much overreach for us to regulate competition amongst people in town.
Right, yeah, and I wouldn't
That's why
regulate
it's
it
kind of
either. I would say,
left where
let's
it's
make
at.
it equal. Let's make it equal. It's not a matter of regulating or putting new rules on. It's saying we all need to treat them we all need to be treated the same.
Is the truck renting the space?
been sitting
Yeah.
on.
They pay money to the
They
lot
pay
owner.
So is he paying taxes on the, so then essentially we are getting money.
Off of the rental.
We not for like withholdings that the other ones are paying it on.
How often does he come?
Well, he's proposing starting up and being here like every week.
Yeah, kind of a lot.
A lot, his website says, his Facebook page says.
More than once a week?
Yes, like through the whole week, and then on the weekends he goes to fairs, is what I understood it to be by his page.
The Chamber of Business, they said something last week. It stuck in my mind that it was gonna be a lot, and it was gonna be kind of like week after week after week after week.
Mm-hmm.
So was the chamber concerned?
Yes.
So if it's week
I don't
after week
know.
after week and he's passing the 10 days that Bryce says is set
We're
forth,
not passing 10 days, because you do it 5 days and then.
I have to see the,
Yeah, but it's in an per annum.
yeah, I don't
Okay.
think it's based on days in a row.
Yeah, he
I
should
have
have
to
he should have been
read that
paying
ordinance.
last year.
I have to sit on my hours. I don't in the village. I pay taxes on my hours that I'm.
That's
in-
right.
Physically
tax.
in the village, I keep track of my hours and I pay taxes on the
That's right.
hours that I'm here.
Village gets my tax money.
That's right. That I want, if we're all gonna pay, then I want this to be fair.
So that sounds like they may fall under it if they're gonna
If
be
they are
here.
working, I don't remember the days. He said 10. I was thinking it was more than that.
I think it said 10. I read the ordinance not, well, it's probably been a year now.
Is there any way to know whether or not they are paying the tax?
Yeah. Brian also has access to that, but he's just learning.
So I gotta call Brian or Rita and ask.
I can maybe look it up and see if
Bless
I
your
can find it
heart.
with you.
You were so-
I would need to know the name. I don't know what they run under.
Mhm.
Maybe just find out initially just our rules.
Right.
You know,
Right.
What is it?
That's in
just
our
10
ordinance,
days in
yeah. Or I can ask Brian
general,
that
or-
too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they probably know it. I mean, I think they probably helped us set up something that they use for all of the villages
A model.
this size. I'm sure it's a model.
I can tell you in
ordinance.
my town, it's an issue as well. It's gone to our council.
Yeah, if not, Melanie may not have to do her to pay taxes here if she doesn't have that many days here in a
She
row.
wasn't, I know. Just want to be
We'll leave
fair.
that for another time.
Yeah. That's good.
Like the community in Paulding, they was talking about it, they actually love it, that they come in, they actually pay their electric bills.
Well, we're not in Paulding.
It's a nice, I mean, it's a
Technically,
nice change for sure, but
I just felt like we covered it enough last year myself, so that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But if they do, if they're supposed to be paying taxes, we need to make sure they're paying their taxes. So we definitely need to look in that.
Okay, something else. We have a food shortage going on right now across the country. We also have most of the fertilizer that comes to the United States comes from Russia right now. I would like to propose that we could allow small animal raising for people for food consumption, and also where we allow people to have a compost pile for gardening. Right now it's outlawed in our town. And with all that's going on and the poor quality of food and we don't have a grocery store, I would like to amend and say that people can have, or at least we examine, that people could raise a couple of chickens or a couple of rabbits. They don't have to, but as long as, if they're confined.
that's the problem. That becomes the problem, is if they're confined, just like all the cats that are running rampant and.
That's right, we have cats, we allow cats, but we don't allow chickens. So I would like to propose that people could raise their own chickens in town. Of course, we would have limits and rules, but just to say, hey, you should be able to take care of yourself and not be 100% dependent upon a grocery store that isn't stocking cabbage. What would that take, Gabe?
Well, I mean, the cabbage part, the gardening's still allowed.
The gardening is still allowed, but we
Yeah.
can't even have a compost pile.
I don't know what the compost, that rule is not a zoning rule, I don't think, but,
It's-
So, if you want me to speak, but there's not a whole lot about it. It only really addresses cats and dogs, like that you could keep cats and dogs, and they have to be confined or whatever. But
Wouldn't the zoning be agriculture only for livestock?
yeah, so right, you could keep, and it's a little vague. Like, what if you had a potbelly pig? You know, well, it'd have to be confined, but you're not eating it, right? So I don't know. I mean, if you wanted zoning commission to talk about it, the planning commission would be willing. I'm sure they'd be willing to address that.
It'd have to be under zoning. Zoning would allow the livestock, anything that's not a domestic.
My
animal.
neighbor had said that they used to raise rabbits back behind there. I think his last name was Reister. Is there a Reister that used to raise rabbits in town?
Yeah, we used to have rabbits.
And
50 years ago, before we had civilization and ordinances.
Right. You know, it's something that I think we should look
My
at. So
neighbors
people
had
would
pigs
have
and
it.
ducks and horse and all that too, so, but that was 50 years ago.
You know, stuff could be done in moderation, but right now we are coming to a time that doesn't look very good. And I think people should have the right to.
I mean, that's something that we could always do in an emergency if we got dire, or if it's that big a deal. I don't think there's gonna be much law gonna prohibit it.
Where I see, looking just beyond being able to do it, do we limit the number that they have? Do we say we can only have hens because neighbor's gonna raise canes when the roosters are waking them up in the morning?
Somebody has a
Some
rooster
people-
over here anyway.
Well, they're not supposed to. Some people would go out to Jerry's and buy a chicken enclosure, looks like a little dollhouse and look nice, and somebody else would park a 57 chicken in their backyard and knock the windows out of it so the roosters could roost.
yeah,
And then if they're allowed to do that, why can't they have a goat?
Well,
I've been around with a lot of goats. I used to help raise them, and the goats are gonna get loose. If they can get loose, they're gonna get loose. Then if they get in the neighbor's yard and eat the prized roses, who's liable? Us for letting them do it, or the guy that got the goats? And then if they got chickens and goats, why not let them have a couple pigs? I think there's a lot we're not, and then when we put all these stipulations on it, who's gonna enforce it? You know, I think there's a lot we need to look at there.
and you know, if you said, hey, 2 chickens per, you know, that you have in your house with a limit of 10 or something that allows people before it becomes dire.
Yeah, you got
I've got
animal
2
waste to
chickens.
deal with too.
That's right.
And
I've
it's
got
illegal
two.
to put it in the garbage.
Right.
It's just like putting your compost leaves. You can't put it in the garbage, so what are you gonna do with it?
One they also
Yeah.
think, like I live next to a chicken farm and it smelled like chicken shit, pardon my French. But, and that, I don't think the whole, yeah, right. So then if everybody in the town has 2 chickens or 4 chickens or 6 chickens, then, yeah, then the whole town's gonna smell like chicken shit, so.
I've got 2 chickens and I'll agree they don't smell. They're frozen, but they don't smell.
Keep them in the
Yeah.
freezer.
I've got a
It's easier to
freezer.
keep track of them that way, Dean.
I mean, like towns like New Haven even allow it. That's
Well,
what.
we're not New Haven.
We're not
so
New Haven.
it doesn't
You're
apply
right.
to us.
We're not, and
So-
that's why I think we need to examine this.
I really don't think there's enough interest from council to pursue it.
And there's
That's up to
people who want to,
council,
I've had
but-
2 calls myself. on-
You have.
Yeah.
That's okay.
People that wanted to raise chickens, and I told them why. Well, yeah, I understand that. Because I think would be just a snowball effect, opening a can of worms, I think.
I don't think it would. I think you can say.
well,
no,
there are
2 more.
districts that it's permitted. There's agricultural districts that still, even with
There we
these
go.
proposed changes, you could have it's a conditional use. You could have specialized animal. So,
So
then
I
maybe you
could
should look
name
at
them and do it.
name them.
Make
If
them
they
my
were-
pet.
Well, if you're not eating them, or but I mean,
It'd be just layers.
I don't think there's an ordinance against raising rabbits. I used to raise them. Unless
Well-
it's been,
It's in the same one.
is it the same one? Because it didn't used
Yeah,
to be.
because we got people who are raising them.
Do you have the ordinances now that we're dealing with, that we're talking about, that prohibits this stuff right now?
I don't have them in front of me now. But
So
Gabe does.
the whole thing in the book is there's kennel or cattery, a lot of premises on which 4 or more domesticated animals more than 4 months of age are housed, groomed, bred, boarded, trained, or sold, and which offers provisions for minor medical treatment. That to me says dogs and cats.
We haven't.
We medicate our chickens.
But then there's the site that would fall. The chickens fall under agriculture. That'd be an agricultural activity that would be limited to an agricultural zone, and only. I mean, if the proposed changes go through, only specialized operations would be approved if they had a conditional use permit, which requires approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. Well, I recommend it, so anyhow, we can move on. We got places to go and people to see.
Okay. Do you have any old business? And the mayor's report. For this month, money brought into the city, $975, $6 to the indigent driver, and the total to be dispersed was $1,121. I skipped the state. $140 to the state. $1,121. I was adding that quick in my head and I thought, that ain't right. Any other business? Not, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Steve Jordan.
Yeah.
Brian Smith. Bryce Steiner.
Yes.
Jason Frank.
Yes.
And Dean Reister.
Yes.
You guys need to get out. You need to get